Will look all different. It's so different because I ain't been on this bitch in a minute. That's crazy. Be getting. I'll put my link right here. Ta-da! Put another link in that bitch. Hit that button. Flash on. As we's getting into today, there's a full moon out. Full moon in Aries. So much different stuff since I went the last time that I went live. It's crazy. I'm seeing this new shit. This is crazy. Good evening. Good evening. Hey there, how you doing? How you been? How have you been? How have you been since the last time was the last time of the last time of the last time of the last time of the last time with the last time that we were here together, that we were here together. Sent out a couple of invites just to send them out, see what happened. But yeah, full moon's working its way in. Full moon in Aries. Got a couple of retrogrades. Couple of those good things. And I was thinking, no better time, because every time is the time for me to pop back in. To pop back in. Send out a couple of these little invites. Just do a couple of invites. Let's do a couple of invites. All right, cool. I've sent to a select few. If I didn't send you an invite, don't feel some type of way. I just pressed the button as it went down. But I wanted to think about something. I wanted to get into some stuff and some things. Environments of entrapment. Understand three things. Healing is still very destructive. You are deserving, but you're not entitled. That's that faith without the works is dead. And transparency and vulnerability are the comprehension of what you're being honest with yourself about. The more transparent, the more honest you become, the more transparent you should become. Before you, even if you've written it down already, before you go under the moon, whatever it is you're going to do, whatever ritual you're going to do, before you pop up under whatever ritual you're about to do, I want you to ask yourself some questions. And over the last couple of weeks, I took my little time away, didn't tell nobody. That's one of the things that I learned is don't tell nobody you leaving. Just leave. You don't have to make a grand announcement that you're about to disappear. Not unless it's in a necessary aspect. Like, for example, for me, I'm teaching a class. The only people that knew that I was zipping out were my clients and the ones that are in my classes. Only people that I needed to tell. I didn't need to make I didn't have to make a giant announcement. This is another example that we're gonna get into when we're talking about these environments of entrapment. This fixation, coming into this status of fixation, versus the actual process. I'm gonna ask questions because these are the type of questions that I give to my clients. I ask my clients when we're doing breakdowns and get into consultations and whatnot. Before you set a new set of intentions, before you sit out here, you want to manifest some new shit. Before you're setting a new set of intentions, I'm gonna ask you a question. Have you or are you in the process of developed disciplines needed for the last intentions that you set? That means, let's use an example. That means if you said, "Hey, I'm gonna work out. I'm gonna detox and get my body in alignment with where I'm trying to get to next in that space." This means before you go setting your new full moon and setting these intentions under this full moon or releasing, I want you to ask yourself the question, what have you done since the last 30 days, the last set of intentions that you set? How many of those intentions have you applied a process or discipline to? Are you, or i.e., in layman's terms, are you living intentionally based on the last intentions that you set? Another question. Before you go and set another set of affirmations to go with those intentions, I want you to ask yourself a question. Are you, instead of having to speak, remember, because it's the levels as you're coming into your aspects, have you applied to the affirmations that you kept speaking? I'm wealthy, I'm healthy, I'm in love, I'm intimate, you're doing these. How many of those affirmations have you written the script out to? Because remember, the affirmation is just at the using this visualization, the affirmation is just what you write at the top of the page. I am grateful. And then followed by, what are you grateful for? What are you grateful for? So now ask yourself the question, along with the living in the disciplines of those intentions that you previously set, what about the affirmations? Do you comprehend? Have you came into a state of you communicated what you are, but do you comprehend what is necessary to sustain that? Do you understand the aspects of what it is to sustain that aspect? These are important. Similar to, I've talked about it many times before when we go into the aspects of meditation. I meditate every AM, but my meditations are now different. At the beginning of my meditations, in this example, as we're building, in the beginning of my meditations, it was to come into realization that my thoughts were running my life. I wasn't in control of my thoughts. My thoughts was running everything. My thoughts had me everywhere. I was always scatterbrained. I didn't have any type of discipline inside of that space until I learned to sit in that space. Then the next part of that process came into what was coming up. That means if I felt anxious, instead of me running away, instead of me visualizing a door and me walking through it to walk away from me feeling anxious, let me sit with this anxiousness. Let me allow the anxiousness, the anxiety, let me allow this emotion to open the door for me. Open a door for me. Instead of me always wanting to go, instead of you always wanting to go, I'm going to open up a door in front of me because I can't be held back. I gotta find some peace. I gotta find balance. I gotta find this. You don't find it. You don't find it. In reality, when you're coming into the aspects of the space with yourself, you're creating peace. You're creating the balance. You're assessing, you're already in balance, but you're assessing what's on these scales in front. You're assessing what's on those scales. You're assessing the environment in which you created based on that survival mode narrative. And you're like, okay, cool. This is what I had to do. This is what I did to survive. This is what I did to do this. This is what I did to do this, this, and that. This, that, and the third. So, question number one. Before you're setting your intentions and you wrote down that long list and you wrote down on that paper, all of your intentions, everything you want to get, how much of the last list have you applied to? How have you applied to it? Did you go grab, use an example, did you go grab Think Rich, Think and Grow Rich, and you listened to it until it got to the part in the audio book, if you listening to the audio book, and you got to the point where it was saying, and it told the story about the general, and he had his troops, and they were on the beach, and they sent the boats out halfway, then they burnt down the boats, and then the general said, yo, the only way we getting off of this, the only way we leaving out of here is either we're going to die on this beach or we're going to go through the thick of this in this forest and come out on the other side. Did you comprehend what that meant? Did you comprehend what that meant? That means you have to let go of the old way out. Your plan B. The infatuation or that fixation that led you to, ooh, I have a new plan. In order for that plan to actually root into set, you got to let go of plan B. Plan B is the old status of yourself. Plan A is, ooh, I want to get better with myself in my life. I want to get better. I want to get myself together. That means that plan B is going to be, plan B is going to feed those fears. Plan B is going to feed the fear, feed from your fear, feed from the emotions that you're not dealing with, and then you're going to emulate from that. So now you're going to emulate from whatever fear comes up. So you get real anxious. Then that you just say that you want to develop this better relationship with yourself, so you can be better for your kids, as an example. Okay. But as soon as you do that, every time that you set this intention on schedule, every time you set that intention, all of a sudden your mom calls you out of nowhere, your sister calls you out of nowhere, your sister calls you with her problems, your mom calls you with some issues, things of this nature, and then you go into, now you angry all over again. I can't just keep doing this for them and da-da-da-da-da. But then eventually, when that emotion goes down, now you back in the guilt. Now you're that guilt that came up, so now they're trying to guilt you. That doubt comes up because they're trying to put doubt onto you. And now the first thing you want to do is like, everybody putting doubt on me. This year's going to be different. Here's the key. It's not so much because it's a process. Once I set the intention, I got to understand that there is a process. It doesn't matter. Before I thought about, I'm gonna go grab some oil, go to this practitioner, go get this reading. I'm gonna go get some oils. I'm gonna go burn some candles. I'm gonna do all of these things. What are my intentions? Your intentions are designed to take you outside of your comfort zone. Your affirmations are designed to make you present of where you're stepping outside of your comfort zone. Your intentions are designed to take you outside of your comfort zone. Your affirmations are to make you present in the space you are in inside of your comfort zone. So if I'm setting intentions after intentions and intentions and I'm writing it all down, and then I go grab a book like Think and Grow Rich as an example. I'm really getting into this because that's the audio book I've been listening to for the last couple of weeks. And I listen to this book. I have to ask myself, before I even hit play, before I even open the book, am I going into this for some more information to feed the fixation of me being an information junkie? Or am I actually going to apply this to some type of process? Am I okay with not knowing? See, that's the key. One of the major keys when it comes into aspects of you making decisions based on process, not based on status, not based on fixation, is you're okay with not knowing. Because regardless if you accept I don't know or not, things are going to come into your space based on now if I am okay with not knowing, I'm open to learning, I'm open into this space, everything's going to flood in. Everything's going to flood in. But if I'm okay with not knowing, what's about to happen, and that makes me anxious, that brings up my anxiety, my anxiousness, it brings up my inadequacy, it brings up my insecurity, it brings up my doubt, it brings up guilt, shame, it brings up, oh my God, I'm 34 years old and I'm not where I want to be right in my life. I'm in my 30s and I've wasted so much time in my life, and it brings all of this up. I don't know how to deal with it. If I'm okay with not knowing, those are my first steps. Those are the first steps of me sitting inside of a space with myself, being honest, learning the comprehension of what is necessary for me to actually learn it. Versus if I get anxious and I read a book talking about the path to least resistance is the path that you need to be on. So every time I get anxious, I confuse anxiousness as resistance. I've confused my own anxiousness, my own impatience, my own doubt, my own self in the mirror as resistance. Every single time, I'm gonna flip back around and revert. I'm gonna go through another state of regression. I'm gonna fall back into the cycle. We have to understand this. The process is where you're going to face the coming to the aspects of your spiritual growth, your growth. It's not about you separating away from your human narrative and the things that you've done or the things that have been created in your human narrative. It's understanding how those correspond to your spiritual aspects. It's about understanding. So when I'm sitting inside of my spiritual aspects and I look at the decisions that I've made, that when I look back at that age that I was at that point in time, I never would have made that decision back then. This when we get into when, like, every time you see somebody talking about something happening inside of a movie, they'll be like, yo, that wouldn't happen to me. If I was in the movie, that wouldn't happen to me. If I was there, that wouldn't happen to me. You would have done whatever was scripted inside of that space. Just by your simple reaction, the simplicity of your reaction lets you know that you don't comprehend what that space was designed for. This is how we get stuck in these environments of entrapment. This is how we get stuck in that cycle over and over and over again. You done stepped out the house again, and you're saying, okay, cool, I'm about to go into the world, I'm about to date, I'm about to do this, I'm about to go do this. You're afraid of knowing nothing. You're afraid of knowing nothing. You're afraid of what that might look like. You're afraid because you don't know what it looks like. That fear aspect. You're not used to emulating outside of the fear narrative with yourself. You're used to emulating based on your fears. You're used to the guy that comes in, the guy that hits you. You're used to the drove of guys that are challenging your loyalty and what you are as a woman, or what you are as a woman, and you want more. But in reality, you got to ask yourself the question, I'm a good woman, I'm a good man, as an example. I'm a good woman, I'm a good man. So you create an entire environment that is an entrapment of you being a good woman and a good man. But in reality, you get a dude drop in your inbox, you get a dude talk to you at the gas station, whatever. He don't know how to talk to them. See, niggas out here don't know how to talk to women. Bitches out here don't know how to talk to men and know how to do shit for men. Gotta ask yourself a real question. I had to ask myself these real questions. Hello, that's what I do. I had to ask myself the real question. Do I know myself like I say that I perceive myself to know myself? Do I know myself as I perceive to know myself? I don't know. Let me think about this. Let me look at some examples. Let me go through this space. Until I'm able to simplify that, I'm gonna break it down. I'm gonna give you a simple answer. I'm gonna break it down. The simplest answer of a lot of things. If I'm doing what I am supposed to be doing, that means I'm acting in my disciplines. I'm moving in the intentions. I'm moving in an intentional manner. That means my disciplines match my day. My disciplines match me owning my entire day. The words that I speak, I'm not listening. That means I'm not listening to reply. I'm not listening to reply, i.e., I'm not trying to gather context. I'm actually observing and listening to learn. Then to give you a simple analogy, if you've ever did a water fast, if you ever do your detox, you know the first 3 days of you drinking getting a gallon of water in a day, you have no time. You have no time to worry about. You are too focused on pissing. You are too focused on pissing to think about anything else. You are too focused on having to go use the bathroom all day. Make sure that there's a bathroom nearby. Wherever you go, you know the quickest route to the bathroom when you go into the store, wherever you at your job, wherever you at. You looking for you're focused on something different. Because now you get to look at everything that's coming into your space at every single time is a reflective point that is meant to trigger your ass to let you realize, like, maybe I'm not. This is what we always talk about coming into the humility aspect. Because, give an example. I'm going to use we're going to do ladies, queens, goddesses first. You can say you can cook, clean, you cook, you clean, you're the best in bed. You can say all of these things. But if I sit here and give you the understanding that all of those are transactional, all of that's transactional, which means he can go he can go get housekeeping. He can go get a housekeeper. He can order laundry service. He can go get all that stuff. Or he already knows how to cook within inside of his well-being. I dropped the video. It's on my YouTube channel. I dropped some videos that are in my TikTok. You have to understand this aspect. The first stage when you're setting intentions, when you're first setting your intentions, is going to be acknowledging the survival mode, the lack mentality, your own lack mentality, your own inability to comprehend, your own inability to communicate. Similar to the aspect, if I ask you right now, you have 19 altars inside of your house for all of your ancestors and everybody, all the energies you work with, but do you have an altar inside of your house for you? You have an altar inside of your house for you. You do, you just unconscious of it. Because you consciously set up all the other altars. And the reason you didn't really think about your own altar for yourself is because you already have that altar. That altar's already set. That altar became your phone. That altar became every day that you go put your face on, or every day that you go shave your beard, you go shave up and get lined up, and you go get shaved up. That's your altar. You don't know how to use it. Because you were fixated on, if I bring the same way you were fixated on the collective relationships that you summed up with, your job was going to do it for you. Your job's supposed to do it for you. Your man's supposed to do it for you. Your woman's supposed to do it for you. Before that, it was your mom was supposed to do this for you. Your dad was supposed to do this for you. Your caretakers, whoever raised you, was supposed to do this for you. Go a little bit deeper. Didn't nobody do anything for me? So in that same instance, when you outside in the collective, nobody can do anything for you. So you're always expecting nobody to do anything for you. You see how you just keep echoing it back and forth? Because you fixated on it. You're stuck in that fixated point. When I'm stuck in a fixated point, I don't develop skills that are based in growth. I only can develop skills that are based in a fixed space, in a fixed state of being. Since I'm not stepping into the aspects of growth, since I can't step into growth, I damn sure can't step into integration. See, the biggest thing that I've noticed, with myself over these last 10 months with myself of going forward and sitting with a lot of stuff, was I didn't even with that aspects of that process and really putting that together, really building that out. Really understanding where I'm at in all areas of my life. Because in some areas of my life, I was very much in growth. Other areas of my life, I was still very fixed. So every time this energy shifting and I'm riding this wave, and then I hit that bump that slims you back into a fixed state. We're not doing no drill. So every time that I'm sitting inside of that space, I'm not realizing that, I haven't recognized this cycle. Every time that I'm coming into that loop, I'm realizing that I have not recognized this cycle. It's like you sitting there playing double dutch and you don't know when to jump in. It's like you playing double dutch, you don't know when to jump in. Or when you're used to going to the carnival or to the state fair, and there's somebody pressing the button. They're telling you when to sit down. They're telling you when to sit down. They're telling you when to buckle in. They're telling you that it's about to go. They're telling you when it's about to stop. Someone's pressing it for you. See, that fixated state for ourselves is the aspects of our trauma telling us where to go. See, the hardest thing about coming out of the survival narrative or the lack mentality is we're used to our trauma telling us where to go. We're used to the trauma. We're used to the traumatic event. We're used to that aspect, this psychological point to tell us how to move and where to go and where to react. We're used to that context. We're still stuck in that. This is when we look at the aspects, that's the psychological age. That psychological age point, that means that happened before the emotional point even came up to be. That means what happened that led to what happened to you is still running the show. Yes. It's still running the show. You're still fixated on this point and you're in hope. We talk about in the survival mode, I always talk about you're in this hope state. You're so locked in that hope that this doesn't happen again. So all you can do acting through fear is emulate that. How do we emulate that? Everything you speak is an affirmation. So you learning how to speak affirmations at a point in time, as we just talked about in the beginning. When I'm breaking down my affirmations, am I living in the aspects of my affirmations? I'm saying that I'm great. I'm saying that I'm in gratitude. I'm saying that I'm in honor. The first lesson I have to learn in being in gratitude, to become the state of gratitude, is I can't attach my gratitude to things. I can't attach my gratitude to things. Or it's only going to align, or the attraction's only going to attract more of those things. And like if you say, I'm in gratitude for waking up, and then you do nothing with it, so you attach your day to waking up, now everything that's going to come through is designed to oppose you waking up. Like, at least I made it through. This is what we talked about. Like my man, like when I was working in restaurants, doing the restaurants, my mentor and my boss, my mentor always taught me, was like, are you running your shift or is your shift running you? Are you managing the shift or is the shift managing you? Are you managing the employees or are they managing you? Are you putting them in order or are they running you around? See, when you're stuck in that survival mode, you're used to the chaos. You're dependent upon something. That chaos has to have a face. That traumatic experience has to have that same face. Because you haven't acquired, it's not even about acquiring the information, and we're gonna get later into the aspects of emotional hoarding later on throughout the week. It's the fact that you keep cycling through that aspect over and over and over again. You haven't acquired the information for that space. So then I'll give you an example. In the divine space of self, in the divine me, it's, even though I got married, I did my marriage to myself in August 16th, 2021. That did not mean that I was the divine masculine. That did not mean like, yeah, you are the divine masculine now. That did not mean that at all. It did not mean because I became married to myself and unified with myself and I was able to walk with myself and face myself that I was the divine masculine. No. That was the initiation of that process. Before I could even come into the aspects of me marrying myself, coming into that self-unification or the deification process of myself, the self-deification process, I had to understand that I was letting go of the fixation with myself. It's like when you look into the mirror, and you spend the first 15 minutes and you spend yourself building yourself up, and then there's this echo in the background while you're doing that 15 minutes in the mirror of the echo of the doubt, the echo of the insecurity, the echo of the pain, the echo of these aspects. And you don't know how to deal with those aspects. So now you're convincing yourself in the mirror that you're this individual. Now you're fixated on being this person. So now you find yourself seeking events to prove you being that person. Now you're looking for events seeking to be that person. Here's the key. That's what you've always been doing. It's just that in this moment, you have acknowledged this cycle, and if you don't know how to move past this cycle, that echo of that anxiety, anxiousness, insecurity, shame, guilt pops up. And if you don't know how to, okay, cool, it's time for me to become really, really honest with myself. Before I go gather some information, before I go put on a hat, before I go put on that outfit, before I go put on something that's going to make me feel like I look good, let me sit with this. If I don't have true time to sit with this at this moment in time, let me write this down. Let me make a concrete decision of process that I'm going to sit down with this. Let me write this down. Whether I make a sticky note, put it on the mirror, whether I put something on the fridge, whether I put it on my bed, whatever it may be, put it in my phone, or I do all of these things. Let me write this down. That's an assessing moment. That's literally taking self-reflection. This is if I did not learn how to self-reflect. Me going through processes like this, me going through these types of processes, it led to me the next time. The first time it was writing it down. The second time was really, when do I reflect on this? So now I need to create that space. I have to create this space. That means I need to look at my space. Where in my space can I create this space? So now this is me setting the groundwork for that intention. This is me setting the groundwork for that intention. Setting the standard for that intention, the standard tone for that intention. This is me coming into the aspects of the structure for that intention. This is me coming into this, now I'm creating a sense of stability that as long as I'm inside of this space and I'm honoring checking this off and I'm giving myself the space to do this, to gather this information that I do not know, I'm gonna change the entire term of my events. This small event of skill set, now I'm developing this skill set. Put that right there. Now you have an opportunity. Every time you going into this space, from survival mode, from survival mode, we never capitalize on the moment. We always conceptualize. We become fixated with the moment, and then we get stuck in the moment, and we try to make the moment work. Like, yay, we're going to try to make this moment work the best way that I need it to happen, because this is what I've been asking for. So we totally forget. We get hyper fixated, and I'm like, wait. I can't capitalize. It's like going on Amazon and you put shit into your cart and you scared to hit the button because you see the price. And it's not so much the price that gets you. It's not the price that gets you. It's not pressing the button that's getting you. It's not the price that gets you. It's letting you know that, did you make a budget for this? Am I just doing this because I'm infatuated with it? I said I needed it. Do I have a budget? What is my budget for this? Something as simple as understanding how all of it connects. Do I have a budget for this? How much of this, what is this going to take away? When I'm inside, now that I sit in that divine masculine seat, I'm no longer looking at things from, I got to take something from here and I'm going to put it over here. I'm looking at my space and observation, and I'm looking at where it lines up and aligns with me. So use an example. I've talked about this example before. My biggest rule that I use in aspects of even gaining aspects of now the financial aspects of running a company, running a business, opening up these aspects, learning how to navigate through this realm is the aspects of, I learned the 50-40-10 rule. 50% of the energy that comes in, it automatically goes towards the household. That means the rent, the utilities, the monthly household things that I need to get, things of that nature, the necessities. 40% of that is going to go automatically into the aspects of the company and into the savings for contingencies. And then I got 10% that I can do whatever I want to do with. That 10% is for my inner child to go wild. I can do whatever I want with that 10%. Whatever I want with that 10%. When we get fixated on, when I was getting fixated, because I got fixated on in the beginning, and I was looking at the 10% as a dollar amount. When we're stuck in the survival mode, when we're stuck in the lack mentality, when we're stuck inside of the trauma, everything becomes transactional. Everything becomes transactional. So that 10% I'm looking at it as a dollar amount. 10% is not enough for me to do whatever the fuck I want. 40% is not enough for me to invest. 50% is not enough for me to take care of my shit, because I'm looking at it as dollar amounts. So since I'm looking at it as dollar amounts, I never sit with the fact of, what's 10% of $100, for example? What's 40% of $100? What's 50% of $100? I don't know the math. Since I don't know the math, now I become counterproductive, and now something's going to come into my space that gives me the idea of they have a lot of, we talk about they have a lot of energy, they got a lot of this, they got a lot of this. Now I get fixated on this aspect in my life, in this point, and I'm now, instead of me capitalizing on learning, that means asking questions, root analysis. Instead of that, now I'm going to look at it from the angle of, how can I conceptualize this to keep it inside my space? This is how we form this is how you form the entrapment. Before you step into the job, you automatically thinking how you're going to become entrapped in there. Why? Because the first thing that a lot of us say when you go to your job is, I'm going here to work. I'm going here to work. I'm not going here to deal with people. So now automatically from your last job, this is figuratively, from your last job, you had the chick you didn't like, the niggas you didn't like, whoever you didn't like at the last job. So now you're energetically seeking, your energy is now seeking those same types of people or catalysts for you to carry the same thought process of what you did from the last job. Don't believe me? Think about every time you said, well, at my last job, we did this. And at my last job, we were doing this. And at my last job, was doing this. Or when you look at the relationship, in my last relationship, it was like this. In my last relationship, it was like this. Now, if none of that shit's popping up, now you hyper fixated on somebody doing something that's normal inside of their space. You don't even know how to ask the question. Because that insecurity, the insecurity is hitting you, and you're like, you don't want to ask them a question because you'll be afraid you're going to scare them off. If I ask them a question about how they acquire their money, maybe it's not maybe it's not even what I'm communicating, it's the comprehension of what I'm about to say. Am I questioning to get an answer for me to get an answer that I want, or am I questioning so I can further sit back and I guess I really don't know everything? How am I asking myself that question? How am I putting myself inside of that space? As I started to develop that aspect of myself, it changed everything that I was doing. It changed how I was having conversations. It changed who I was having conversations with. It helped me develop a new sense of urgency with myself. And as I developed that new urgency with myself, it helped me develop and sit inside of my purpose. My purpose wasn't based on fixation or status. My purpose was actually based on me being in alignment with with my actual purpose. As long as you're in alignment with your purpose, everything's adding on. Everything's adding on. Naturally, things shed. It's a natural cycle. You go through the cycle. You acknowledge what cycle. You can acknowledge what cycle you're in. You'll go through this cycle. You acknowledge what needs to be learned inside of this cycle. The lesson. Once you're able to acknowledge the cycle that you're in, you're able to acknowledge the cycle. You're able to acknowledge, okay, cool, I got a list of lessons that are about to come up. When I was stuck in this fixation mindset, I couldn't acknowledge the cycle or the season I was in, so I couldn't acknowledge the lessons that were coming through. So now I didn't know if it was a lesson or a blessing or what. I didn't know what it was. So this is where we talk about the aspect you being stuck in, because when you're in a state of hyperfixation, everything's raw emotion. Everything's raw emotion. Everything's raw feeling. And since you're not used to cultivating the emotions or cultivating that raw energy and cultivating and allowing it to come all the way up and fully cycle, you're looking for, as soon as you go in there, you're looking for ways to break out of the cycle. And you take it in there with you. Let's use figurative, let's use the job. The moment that you go into your job, depending on the day and the month and the year, the day and the month, the time that you start your job, you automatically inside of that job, you automatically planning out, I got a vacation this day. I got to take time off this day. Birthday this day. Birthday this time of the week. But this birthday, I have all of these things that now I'm projecting into this space that must be honored in this collective, but I have not individually understand why I still need, I don't understand my role, so to speak, inside of that space. Why do I feel the need to go to this person's birthday party when, as we get closer and closer to their birthday party, even though they turned 30, even though they're turning 32 this year, they're all but still acting like they're 12. They're still acting like they're 12 years old when it comes to the aspects of developing in the aspects of their birthday. Why do I feel the need to go there? Why do I feel like I keep saying the same shit every year? Because you need it. Because you're meeting them at their emotional age. See, the aspect of being stuck inside of this traumatic, stuck inside of the cycle or the loop, or you getting stuck and you mad about retrogrades and all of that aspect, the thing about that is you're still stuck, you're still locked in that emotional age. You're still locked in that emotional age. You're still locked in that psychological age, that psychological point. The psychological age is the point of where the trauma was introduced. The emotional age, the psychological age is the point to where that trauma was introduced. The emotional age is the point of development of the identity that coincides with that traumatic event. See, this is the type of shit that we didn't know. Our parents didn't know this. Your great-great-grandparents didn't know this. And when we go back into the ancestral pool, when it was the shaman, the hoodoo woman, the conjure lady, the witch doctor, the practitioner back in that era and back in that stage, there was a process. But as that process started to diminish, and it's similar to like, okay, think about take an example of like the cell phone. The cell phone went from being big as fuck to being small as fuck. As that process became minimized, so did the dialogue. So did the dialogue became minimized. So back in the day when there was an issue with your great-great-grandparents and they sat down and they had a circle, they were sitting around that fire having that conversation with that person. Or when we think about whenever going out the war, and then before any of the warriors could come back to the village, they had to go sit with the shamans. So they go to war. They say they go to war. We go to war for a year. It was 6 to 8 months that you had to come sit with a nigga like me. You had to come sit with us. You were not going back into the village until you sat with us. You were not going into the village. You were not going back to the village. You were not going back to your regular life until you sat with us. But that, as I just said with that example, as the cell phone got smaller, so did the dialogue and the necessity for the dialogue and the comprehension of how the cell phone got that small. As it became more easily available to you, you can go on Google and Google everything. I can go get all the information. The dialogue that was necessary to comprehend that went away. So now we're inside of a space, I'll say since 2020. We'll say since 2020, the big shutdown, the doors have been open to that dialogue, to understanding that dialogue. You can go back to, let's go back to the early times when we were like, I'm an 80s baby, I'm an 80s child. So back in the early 80s, like when we were coming up in the 90s, where every single day on TV, Every other commercial on TV was the California Psychic Network in the late nights and all the psychic networks and all of these aspects. You would go to sleep at 2:00. You would go to sleep with your TV on. You fell asleep in front of the TV, wake up to a fucking church, Peter Popoff spring water. You woke up to that shit. You woke up to that and it was always around 3:00. It was always around the witching hour, around the spiritual hour in that space. But you didn't understand the dialogue that went with it. So now you're inside of a space where you can set your intentions. Cool. Set the intention, set your ritual. But at what point in time have you came to the process of something as simple as you look at the pentagram every single day? When are you going to realize that your body is the pentagram? Something as simple as that. How have you learned to apply the body of the pentagram? I did a video before. It's on my YouTube channel. I've synthesized that formula and exercise into the aspects of the 5 points of actualization. Actually going through the aspects of your energy, understanding your energy, your flow, your energy, your grounding energy, your flow, your decisions in the ether, which is your soul, where you're at inside of that space. Have I become what is necessary for this energy? Have I become the one that is decisive with this energy? Let me become real honest with myself. I am an indecisive ass fucking person. I was an indecisive fucking person. Making a decision, nah. Because I had insecurity behind that. What if I make the wrong decision? What if I make the wrong choice? All of my choices, I was used to being guided by my trauma. So most of my decisions were always, you make your decision when you're super heated. You had a whole argument with your parents, had a whole argument with your significant other, and then you went and made a decision, and then you get the rest of the information, and then you're like, shit, I made the decision. And now your pride gets in the way. And it's like, yeah, well, you made your decision. You got to own the decision. You made the decision, own it. Yeah, it's yours. Own the decision and move from there. You physically move from that space. You may have somewhat mentally moved from that space, but you didn't emotionally move from that space. All you did, because remember I've talked about these triggers, the trigger lets you know where you're not present. So all you did was think about the football when they moved the chain, and all you did was move the chain, and now you on first down. First down and 3. All you did was move the chain. Now everything has to come up to that point and catch up. That's why every time you go through a certain process with yourself and you're stuck in that fixation aspect, I gotta make this goal, I gotta make this goal. You become so hyper fixated on that point that nothing else matters. You don't care about anything else. So since I don't care about anything else, I'm not being compassionate. I'm sorry. So this when it comes into those arguments, I'm sorry, when I get upset and I get mad, I really get beside myself. I'm not really used to talking to people and being around a lot of people. I'm not used to it. You start giving yourself excuse after excuse after excuse. No matter how true it may be, no matter how much of it may be factual, you start giving yourself all these aspects. And the reason that they're so detrimental is because they're coming from a point of self-defeat. You're already laying out it's kind of like if you didn't win, if you went to an award show and you went up there and if you wrote down your speech and then you didn't get the award, so you just put that, you throw away your award speech, instead of you actually sitting there like, well, I wrote this speech out, let me read it to myself. What in this speech, where am I in alignment with this speech? Is this speech very surface? That means I wanted to thank, first of all, I want to thank God, and I want to thank God and my producer and da-da-da-da-da. Or are you really getting deep into your shit when you writing it out? How transparent can you actually be inside of that space? How vulnerable are you willing to get inside of that space? Because the only thing that stopped you from becoming, from gaining that point was the lack of vulnerability. I can look at every job that I've ever had, and I can really, when I really sit there and ask myself the question, why didn't I get the job? It was because of my lack of vulnerability. I wasn't being vulnerable inside the space. I was giving them answers that I thought they would want. And whether they or not, even if they're in that position, no matter how they got in that position, they're inside of a space with access to a certain frequency that's going to be working off of working off how I display my vulnerability. If I go into a space and I display my vulnerability as a weakness, then it's going to be used as a weakness. If I go into a space using my vulnerability as a strength, it's going to be viewed as a strength. Now I get to go test. Okay, cool. If I go in here using my vulnerability as a strength, I was open, I was honest. I told them about my past. I told them about the last job. I told them what happened. I told them what I learned. Okay, cool. They didn't like me at that job. All right, cool. I asked them why, and they were like, well, because what happened at your last job, and you told us, even though you were honest about what happened, we feel like you weren't remorseful. We felt that you weren't remorseful. I've had this said to me. We felt like you weren't remorseful. Instead of me sitting there being like, man, fuck it, I'm about to go drink and go smoke and go that shit out, I really went and looked. I was like, what do they mean by I wasn't remorseful? Or I wasn't humble to it? Let me replay what we talked about inside of that space. Wait. I told them that my boss and everybody said it wasn't my fault. My boss and everybody said it wasn't my fault. Everybody told me that it wasn't my fault. All the employees told me that it wasn't my fault what happened. But what did my manager say? See, the unknown aspect is, what did my manager say? I didn't get that information. See, as you're creating your new realm and creating your new space, and you're coming through the aspects of your work, the point of you coming into that space is to go past that point of that fixation. It's like when everybody was fixated with shadow work. Everybody was fixated, I'm doing my shadow work, I'm doing my shadow work, I'm doing my shadow work, and everybody's doing their shadow work like it's a damn job. Everybody's doing shadow work, but it's like you're hearing they're doing like the ritual aspect or the spiritual aspect of shadow work, but what about the psychological aspect of shadow work? And instead of me saying like, everybody's doing, and instead of me going through a big ass gripe like a fucking, even though we're older than old in this shit, instead of me going through a process of like nobody's really doing it, I had to ask myself the simple question: why do I feel that way about it? Maybe they don't have all the information. I don't have all of the data. I don't have all of the information. So I'm knowing from the experience now, if I don't have all the information, I have no reason to I really have no reason to get upset or feel some type of way. So if I am feeling some type of way and I don't have all the information, before I even gather the information, I got to check those emotions first. I got to check the emotions. Because if I don't check the emotions, if I don't check the emotional underline, the unresolved, that's what's going to be fed when I go gather the information. That's what's going to be fed when I gather the information. Use the example, there's 900 different fucking podcasts talking about relationships right now. What women need to do, what men need to do. But I haven't heard one actual talk. So actually speaking on the aspect of what about the individual relationship? I haven't heard that question been asked. So me coming into the business, this is when I tell you the LLC, when I talk about the LLC mentality, the first rule when we come into aspects of business, my mentors that taught me was like, I want you to find 5 things that are in that field, your niche, where you're at, what you're coming into, your purpose. That means you got to find your purpose first. You got to find your purpose first. 5, once I developed my purpose and I understood my purpose was to be unorthodox, the way that I speak, the way that I break things down, my ability to assess, my ability to analyze, break things down, move real fast, zip, zip, zip. I'm able to move through things really quick, slow down, come back. I understand my things like my human design and things of that nature, how I'm able to split things and bring things back together to develop my purpose. Now I have to sit inside of that space. What are 5 things that I don't necessarily agree with? I accept them, but I don't agree with them, that are based into my niche, that are based in the space that I'm going into. Let me find those 5 things. Okay, these 5 things are now what? My intentions. These new 5 things are my intentions. The things that I write out under these intentions, like let's use the example of whenever somebody's talking about energy healing in that space, and somebody's talking about energy healing, it's always from a level of you have to heal your energy and you got to bring it to the surface. The thing that I always noticed was nobody was like, okay, the energy that's coming up, the anxiety, the anxiousness that's coming up. Every time I've had conversations with clients that came to me after they worked with somebody else, and they're like, we don't sit down and talk about this type of stuff. And my biggest thing always, I tell everybody, like, I don't talk about other practitioners, I don't talk about other people in their work. All we do is focus on me and you and the work that we're doing. So I noticed I saw the whole. So I had my intention set, I had my affirmation, which was the answer to that intention or to that question of what I didn't like. So now I can actually develop the discipline inside of that space. So now I can develop the discipline of somebody's talking about energy work, doing chakra work, doing energy work. All right, cool. You unlock the root chakra. All right, cool. What's coming out of the root chakra? What's the psychological aspects of the root chakra? Aspects of everything from on the surface, root chakra, you'd be like grounding, your survival narrative, things of that nature. Okay, cool. Now, what does that go into the aspects of as below? That's the as below part. What about the as above? All right, the root chakra is connected to the delta wave. So now I have the information. Okay, cool. I've gathered information on the delta wave. The delta wave is connected to the root, is in alignment with the root chakra. So that's the deep state. That's the deep state of being. That's the root of all. That's the root of your being. Okay, cool. So somebody talking about, yo, I want to get more confidence and I want to have more friends. All right, cool. It sounds like your sacral chakra is blocked. Your sacral chakra is connected to your theta wave, your resting state, the programming state. How you program, how you administer the programs of what your mind yourself is rooted in. And then you go through the process of, okay, let's go to the solar plexus, connected to the alpha wave. That's the power center. That's that power aspect. Everybody wants to get stuck inside the alpha wave. But now you get consumed because of fear. Ooh, the alpha wave, I'm going to be an alpha. I don't want to be no beta ass nigga. I don't want to be no beta ass basic bitch. I don't want to be kind. I don't want to sit inside of my heart space. So you miss every time you look at a picture of a heart. You miss every time you look at a picture of a heart. And you notice that heart has 3 ventricles. The heart has 3 ventricles. That heart has 3 ventricles. And when you look at the beta wave is broken down into three. The beta wave is broken down into three. The same three ventricles as below, the same three ventricles of the heart as below are the same three ventricles or the three wavelengths in the beta wave. So how I cultivate my power and my energy sets into the terms of the first beta wave being arousal, the second beta wave being focus, the third beta wave being the aspects, it boils down to the aspects of being the aspects of the compassion or the path, my process, my purpose. So I'm not I didn't know that. So then I get stuck in I'm being alpha. So I'm stuck inside of the lower three aspects of myself. So now everything that I do, no matter what information comes down, it has to come all the way down and through, all the way down to here before I can acknowledge it. The lower three aspects, or all of the riches, and we look at aspect when we talk about the Bible, all of the aspects of the riches of the earth and the power of the earth and the dominion over the earth, all physical forms. So everything becomes physical. That shit went through my emotional training, my psychological training, my mental training, before I could even do anything with it. So now that I'm speaking, I don't know in which way this energy is coming up inside from my heart. So I'm speaking from the heart, but I'm speaking based on a rising, getting a rise out of motherfuckers. I'm speaking from getting a rise out of people. I'm speaking based on taking the focus off of myself. Or I'm speaking from a space of emulating what my purpose is inside of that space, which is to be argumentative. Or I'll say, yo, I'm trying to be the realest nigga and I'm trying to be the real one. But I'm not being transparent. Because now when it comes to the aspects of the process, this is when you get examples of the nigga, when we talked about Derek Jackson sitting in his motherfucking car. Or you see a motherfucker always inside of their fucking car. Or you see a motherfucker, everything always seems staged. Because the alpha mentality is always about staging. Because your power center is about staging how you use your energy. It's only a staging center. It's becoming aware of how you stage and set the tones with your power. That's all that this center is. All that being an alpha is being aware of my power. Being aware of if now I have to really look, am I being authentic in the aspects of my power and my energy? Or am I fixated on somebody being validating that I'm powerful? Because I'm not setting my intentions first thing in the morning that I'm powerful. First. Not setting my affirmations. And if I'm setting my intentions and setting my affirmations, I run them shits, I got to be honest. Similar to whenever I go on a fast. Similar to when I go on a fast, I might get to day 5. What used to be true for me no longer exists. That's what I was doing. Similar to day 5 of a fast, when I'm sitting there thinking about food, that shit formulates in the aspects of me setting my intentions and setting my affirmations. So then I go back to the beginning, what I said in the beginning of this build. When you set your intention, before you set your intentions the night before the moon becomes full and you outside and the moon becomes full, are you living in the disciplines of the intentions that you set before today? When it comes to you speaking your affirmations, speaking in a constructive manner, not just because the first thing of your affirmation would be like, you got to speak positive affirmations. And I've told you how I felt about speaking positively. It's time you have to actually speak constructively. Because I'm gonna give you a little tidbit of thought process. You're told God was everything else, but you were never told you were told God was everything else, the creator and all of these great things, the creator and all of these things. But you never sat with the fact that if somebody told you that God was intelligence. If God is intelligence, what is the definition of intelligence? It is intelligence breaks down to the simple definition of the simply wanting to learn, simply wanting to apply, to learn to something. That's what it is. I have a high sense of intelligence. I demonstrate my intelligence in multiple different ways because I have the desire to do this. So I now do my aspects of my intelligence. I'm not fixated on emulating the intellectual aspect. I actually want to break down the shit based on intelligence. My simple wanting to be able to do that. Now I have to honor my energy. So this when we get into the aspects of honoring your energy. Honoring your energy. Defining yourself. Instead of using the old definitions that were based on survival. You didn't sat here and said, that nigga's not a man is not a man if he don't do this, 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 and this. But a woman is not this if she don't do this, this, and this. Let's get real with that. Man's first purpose, a man's priority is always a man's purpose, true purpose is always going to be his priority. A woman's first true purpose is going to be her priority. Always. So all of the codependent narratives that you got is, why can't I be a priority in this man's life? You're always going to attract the individuals that are moving through fear and are going to emulate what is necessary to feed from your fear. So they feed from your insecurity of you wanting a man to put you first, or somebody wanting to make you a priority inside of their life. So now you're a priority inside of this person's life. So now everything else that they need to do is now compromised and in conflict with making you first. So now anything that can actually be an opportunity to this person to step out of their comfort zone, they ain't got to step out of their comfort zone. As long as you're first, they won't step out of their comfort zone. As long as you want something else to put you first before you put yourself first and you do the work to yourself, they won't have to step out of their comfort zone. This is when we get deep into the aspects, I've talked about it before, when we get into the aspects of look at everybody around you. If everybody around you is dependent upon you, if everybody around me was dependent upon me, them not stepping out of their comfort zone, I can have all the argument. Man, I don't know why they don't get their life together. I don't know why they don't do this. I don't know why they don't do that. I don't know why this don't happen. I don't know why they're not doing this. Because if they did that, I would lose my fixation. I would lose my fixed point inside of their life. My anger with others not changing was only showing me that my anger and me not changing, my necessity in embracing change. It wasn't that I was not changing. It wasn't about the not changing. That's surface level. That's fixed. It was the process of understanding and embracing the aspects of change. As you're now going through that shift with yourself, and you're coming into this reality with yourself, and you're allowing yourself to develop inside of that space. Now you're coming into the aspects of that development. You have to accept where you actually are at. It's like you went and bought, it's like if you go and you got your crib and you filled that bitch with everything else, but everything inside of your crib is rented. And you're trying to compete with somebody that everything in their house they own. It's not going to work. Think about that. It's like you went and bought the car and you're making payments on it. And then you meet somebody that's buying a car and they're making payments on it. and y'all both making payments on the car, but y'all making payments for different reasons. So you sitting there stressed about how you gonna keep the car payment going, and they sitting there and they're like, yeah, that's my company car though. It's a write-off. That in that figurative sense is understanding where you're actually at with yourself. If you have never done it, that aspect to yourself is understanding where you actually are at with yourself. Hold on one second. They gave me a little bit of light. I don't care. That aspect for yourself is really understanding where you're actually at with yourself and what is necessary for your next steps. Because you're only going to keep coming back to that. You're only going to keep coming back to that. All you're going to keep doing is coming back to that same exact next step. I made a post, I want to say it was earlier in the weekend. And I said one of the biggest things for myself, one of the biggest realizations for myself was it wasn't the aspect that I was not ready. It was truly sitting with the fact that I was not, that it wasn't the aspect of the context that I was not ready. It was sitting with the emotional, the energetic motion of what I wasn't ready for and why I wasn't ready for it. I had to understand that I wasn't doing it based on status anymore. I can't start this based on, everything that I'm doing now is not based on status. And now I got to look back at all my examples of status. I can look back at the last, well, let's say before 2016. Everything before 2015, everything before 2015 and 16 was strictly based on status. No, well, maybe some of it was and maybe some of it wasn't. No. First case, everything I did was based on status. I developed an entire narrative based on status. Whole narrative based on status. And what I've done this is like, I made a video, the video is on my TikTok, and I was celebrating, this is me being 7 years engulfed into my craft, engulfed into me, engulfed into the becoming an actual rising of myself. 7 years. And I can't even tell you the first month of the first year. But I had to sit with it and really realize and sit with, like, it's been 7 years of me being inside of my space and my path. And as I sat sitting there with, like, oh my God, it's been 7 years. It's been 7 years. And instead of me looking at it from because I don't look at it from defeat, I was literally looking at it from a point of appreciation for everything that happened. The relationships, the friend, everything that went down. Because I wasn't looking at it from a self-defeating tone. I wasn't fixed on, I should have did this back then. No, I'm doing it exactly when I need to do it. See, as you're shifting that shit, you got to sit with where you need to sit at. There is no more of the, oh, I'm going to go do it this way. I'm going to go grab some candles. I'm going to go grab a jar. I'm going to go do this. That's one half of it. That's one half of it. But if I don't have true comprehension, even when I speak that incantation, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. I don't know what the fuck I'm really saying. If I speak that incantation, I don't know what I'm really saying. I don't know because I'm fixated on something. But if I treat that incantation as part of the process, I learn how to apply that process. I can learn how to apply that process. As I've learned to apply that process, once I've mastered it, then I can display it. I can show my work. Now I can show my work. I started showing my work in 2020. No, I actually started showing my work in 2018, the end of 2018. I've been showing my work ever since. The more that I show my work, the more transparent I become. The more I understand the necessity of, from September 24th, my pop's first death day since his transition in January. I understood the point of my phone bill was due on the 24th, and instead of paying my phone bill, I said, all right, let's turn that bitch off. I let my phone go off. I only needed my phone for certain things. Post videos, make posts, live. I got Wi-Fi, I'll turn the Wi-Fi on. It really helped me really sit there. It really felt good sitting in that space that I wasn't so drawn to you needing my phone. I could actually sit without needing to be fidgety and grabbing things. It let me know where I was at. That's the point of the detachment. That's the point of you coming to the detachment. That's the point of you sitting down inside of that space. Because all you're going to do is keep repeating it. All you're going to do is keep repeating the same cycle, because you don't want to acknowledge how you got into that cycle in the first place. Once you acknowledge the cycle, you got to accept the lessons that are inside of that cycle. Once you accept the lessons that are inside of that cycle, then you can go through the stages of forgiveness for the aspects inside of that cycle. Forgiving and then apologizing to the individuals, people, places, things, ideals that you subjected yourself to. Then you actually can start doing, then you set your intentions. Then you can set your affirmations. Then you can start doing that aspect of that process. See, the thing that we have, where we're at now with ourselves in this space where we at now, we actually have that information. But you can't look at it as the information junkie. If I gather a bunch of information and fill up that whole fucking space, and I fill up that fucking space, I'm gonna fill up this whole fucking space, that's when you get into the aspects of emotional hoarding. That's when you get into that dumbfounded space of emotional hoarding. And you realize that you've been emotional hoarding. I'm gonna stop here, then I'm gonna give you this evening's announcements. And this evening's announcements. Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're gonna be doing another live. We're gonna be getting into emotional hoarding. One of the biggest things that I've come across in your healing process is understanding emotional hoarding. If you ever looked on TV and you seen that show Buried Alive, all those hoarder shows, and you feel some type of way when you look at it, oh my God, I can't see how they can let their life get that bad and things like that. Similar to you watching Love and Hip Hop and every other show, that's everything that you see in a visual is only the extreme. Everything you see in that visual is only the extreme. So you sitting there and you addicted to watching hoarders, and you want to go through the dialogue you open up the dialogue to yourself, well, I can never be a hoarder, I can never do shit like that. Guess what? You're already emotionally hoarding. Remember, it always starts as an emotion. How are you hoarding? Your friendships, relationships, the things that you keep holding on to, the way you hold on to your trauma, and you keep that what we just talked about in this one, that fixation point or that trauma point, that fixation that now creates the psychological marker that's in the center, that nucleus. Just get scientific, that nucleus. And then the body that goes around that atom or this element that you keep creating is the emotional aspect. And then that becomes what creates and attracts and creates your whole fucking world. Is no more different Then the lady, I saw one the other day, then the lady that in her house, she got like 3 microwaves sitting in the living room. She got enough room to walk through. And every time that someone comes to initiate actual help, she says it's her stuff. As we've been breaking down in this one, you have to get out of that space of owning your trauma and actually start owning the healing process. You have to come in. The something is your trauma. The nothing is the healing. You must step into this nothing, the not knowing. In accepting their stages, there's something inside of that nothing that's going to navigate you. And it's going to be based on the shit that you need that unresolved. So yeah, Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We don't get into emotional hoarding. As always, I desire you to be the fucking best. I desire you to be the fucking best. We give y'all a nice little message before we slide out of here. It's a little cloudy over here and wait for the moon to come up. I want you to ask yourself a question. Y'all know how, if you're familiar with when I do readings and how I do readings, I use the cards to illustrate the energy that we have inside of the space. Knight of Cups. Knight of Cups. It is very, what's that word? I don't even know words no more. It's very fitting that the Knight of Cups will come up on the full moon being in Aries, representing the decisions of you trying to move forward with a full cup. The simple thing, you trying to move forward without assessing that cup. You trying to carry everything that you always carry through that point of transition. The problem that stops you every single time is that you are clinging to this cup and you trying to run with a full cup. Go fill up a glass with some fucking water up to the brim, up to the top, and then try to run through your house full speed. Disclaimer, I'm not responsible for any spills. And try to run through your house full speed. You can't even run at the pace that is necessary. But it's not about running at that, remember, because I've talked about it before, that fear wave moves very, very fast. It requires the cadence of something to attach to. That wave of aspects of the love, the enlightenment, your joy, the higher aspects of yourself, you're creating your peace. It's a slower wave. So it requires patience. So you looking at that cup right now that you got, you use to run, you running with that full ass fucking cup. It's time for you to walk slow and allow yourself to go through this death process. Allow yourself to go through this transitionary process. Because if you do not, you will not be able to assess and take the opportunity that it will present itself to capitalize on taking ownership of the first cuts that I have to make are the acknowledgments that I keep avoiding and I'm running away from shit. I keep trying to, every time I'm used to, because I'm still stuck in that space when I was little and what I didn't receive, I'm still trying to receive it now. So I only make these cuts and I only cut out these patterns that match that. It's time for me to step away. Everything inside of your space right now is telling you, okay, it's time to step away and step down. It's time to step off of this pedestal of my traumas and actually sit down. And then that leads into the aspects of that. In order to do that, you got to acknowledge what you tether to. It's time to acknowledge what you're tethering yourself to. One of the biggest things that I came into in the beginning of my works, and one of the things I work with a lot with one of the things I work with a lot with my clients is the aspects of learning how to step away from actually stepping away and understanding people, their behaviors and their patterns, and why it's so important. You have to start with the behaviors and the patterns because that leads into the events and the circumstances and the ideal that they're connected to. See, until I understand the ideal that things are connected to, I can't understand my circumstances, i.e. the events, i.e. the cycles. Therefore, now I can't break out the patterns. I can't assess these patterns and this behavior that I've developed. Because I'm still going to look at it I'm still looking at it from that point in time to where, oh my God, I'm not where I want to be. I'm attaching my shit you will always be at imbalance if you attach your peace, your balance, and any of your shit to something else. That same hope narrative that your parents did in that aspect, like I had an honest moment with myself. I came to a point of after going through the aspects of forgiveness. And I was like, I really wished that my mother and my mom and my pops, my father, my family members, the elders, I really wish that they had an opportunity and they actually worked and cultivated their purpose first. Now, way back, it's in what I've talked about this before. You have to literally become okay with no longer existing. So for me to sit there inside of a point and to say out loud that I wish that my mother went further in her studies and her learning what she wanted to do, or she had those opportunities, or my pops went through those opportunities, my father and they went through these opportunities, even if that meant that I didn't cycle down here. Even if that meant that I got cycled in later on. Sitting with that, it changes your tone from, as I've talked about before, shit happening for you and shit happening to you. See, before that point of me coming to that realization of sense, I was stuck inside of the space of everything's happening to me. So now I'm thinking about I need more and more and more. I need more and more to attach where I want to be happy, where I want to be in my life. I want to attach it to something. So everything from the shorty I was talking to the big screen TV that was in the living room, to the car that I never paid off, to the apartment that I lost, to everything. When I looked at it was happening for me, it changed how I looked at it. I lost that house because I had no idea how to own a house. I had lost that apartment because I had no idea of financial literacy, i.e. emotional literacy. Because every step that I made when I got that place was from a place of self-defeat and self-sabotage in the beginning. I sat there and I was like, I can't wait to get my taxes. And I got my tax money. And I got the apartment, put the deposit on the apartment, paid all the deposits. But $1,200 taking care of the deposit, first month's rent, furnishing the apartment for after the paying the rent and the first month deposit, that $1,200 went away. So now I'm always behind. Because now I'm like, okay, cool, well, I'm going to get this month, and this day, and this day. So now my whole entire mind, I'm doing it to myself. The most honest aspect that you come into in this healing process and why it's so important is comprehending how you're doing it to yourself. The biggest thing about you coming into before you deserve anything and breaking that entitlement, i.e. then going into this aspects of entitlement and expectations, is realizing that the work that I'm doing or the work that I did 3 years ago was just that 3 years ago. That was time served at that point in time. I wasn't present 3 years ago. But now that I'm emotionally present in the present of my now, I'm no longer robbing my future to pay off my past. I no longer attach my shit to everything else. And everything starts to change. But I desire you to be the motherfucking best. I desire you to be the motherfucking best. I appreciate y'all for dropping through. It's been a minute since I did a live. Been about a month since I did a live. And for me that's a changing aspect, because then it changed the way the screen look and all that. It's all types of new shit up on here. But it was necessary. Lucy had to recharge. Lucy got to recharge too. But everything from with me, readings, consultations, all services, hit me in the inbox. You go to the website, the link's above. The link is above on my website. Shadow work consultation, shadow therapy consultation is an in-depth hour and 45-minute minimum video call. Video chatting, hour and 45 minutes, and we really start. Created the space for you to come in, and we gonna have that conversation. What comes up is necessary to come up, and we build from there. And then that leads into the aspects of my sessions with me. Everything from my shadow work therapy full session. It's an actual full program. It's 3 months. You meet with me 2 times a month. Everything from the therapy sessions, whether we need to do a past life regression, hypnotherapy, whatever aspects, whatever therapy technique that I put in, along with the spiritual aspect, the spiritual therapist, occult therapist, bringing these aspects together and then building on that. Or you might just be in a position where you like, you know what? I feel like I need a space to vent to once a month, or I need a space to talk to somebody twice a month. I got that for that. I got once a month sessions. I got twice a month sessions. I got the full aspect sessions. After that, and especially after that first initial 3 months with me, if we're sitting there and you feel like you need more, you feel like, yo, I have a need for this space. I want to go deeper. Then we set up and we adjust month to month. But here's the thing. I can't want it more than you. I can't want it more than you. If you came to me 8 years ago, yeah, I would try to want it more than you. That was the story of my life. I wanted shit more than everybody else. I wanted it more than everybody else. So I would always put myself out there and absorb all of their responsibilities and define my manhood through that. But I'm sitting in the divine masculine space right now. I'm sitting in the divine masculine space. My purpose is my priority. My purpose is to create the space. My purpose is to create the space. My purpose is to create the space. My mission inside of that space is to move inside of my edge to develop the strength of that space. I can't want it more than you. Nobody can want it more than you. You have to want it for you. Not the mother, not the father, not the brother, not the sister, not the independent person, not the master, none of those. You. You got to get intimate. We got to get intimate with you. The you that The you that's able to capitalize on all of these aspects of yourself. One of the things, I had a self-inventory conversation with myself the other night. And I was like, in 10 months' time, goddamn niggas. In the last 10 months, I've owned that I'm a father, thus being Papa. I've owned that I'm a father. So I move as a father figure. I'm already moving as all of the aspects that I desired myself to be. So I'm always available. So now my availability changed. This is the aspect of where you're at with yourself. You're stepping out of that process. You're stepping out of that fixation and you're stepping into that process. That process is those emotions. That process is actually sitting with it. That process is like, you know what? I do need to sit down with someone. That fixation that had you sitting down and trying to fix everything, literally from that fixation, you're trying to fix everything else around you to avoid yourself. That process forces you to sit with yourself and see how all of those things connect. They're doing what they're supposed to do. Everything around you is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. You ain't supposed to stay there. One of the realest things, you ain't supposed to stay there. You ain't supposed to sit there and be stuck in your urges for the next. You ain't supposed to be sitting here stuck in your urges. The name of the game is developing those aspects into your everyday life. From setting intentions to living intentionally. From speaking affirmations to comprehending and becoming constructive in the way that you communicate. Comprehension leads to the constructive ability of understanding how to communicate. Just like meditation. And I get into this all the time with my clients, and I got classes and all that good stuff. Just like your meditation. You're supposed to move from meditation. The point of meditation is to bring yourself into that space, to that awareness, and do the programming. And you're supposed to step into that astral ability. Because before you get into, I want to be telepathic, and I want to use my clairvoyances, and I want to use all of my gifts. You got to know how to project first. That means you got to look at what you've been projecting anyway, before you even can get into the aspect of moving yourself into certain spaces and absorbing energy, or you're going to keep absorbing the same shit. But again, I love y'all. Appreciate y'all for stopping through. This Wednesday, 12 p.m., we're going to get into emotional hoarding. This Friday on TikTok, I have not put together that title has not came to me yet. We're going to get into shadow sessions on Friday on TikTok. But this Wednesday, 12 p.m., from 12 to, we're going to do 12 to 1, you know, we're going to do 12 to 1:30. We're going to break down and get into emotional hoarding. But you ain't got to wait to the next live or to the next live, the next class, the next time that I go live. We can get your one-on-one done. We can get your one-on-one done. Consultations, readings, all of my other services, God Alchemist. The website, the link is above. So is also the Cash App link. Show your support that way. Anybody also with the aspects of anybody that's put in their orders to the store, every time I reach to a certain amount of orders, I shut. So if anybody's ever wondered, like, why is the store shut down because every time I reach a certain amount of orders, for me, that makes it for me to keep it more personal, because I have a certain amount of custom orders, certain amount of regular orders. I make sure all of these orders are fulfilled before I open the store back up. This allows me to be able to pace myself. That way I'm not sitting there, because I know myself. I'll burn myself out with a bunch of fucking orders, and then I'll be sitting there at the end of the day like, why am I so tired? Gee, Lucifer, because you tired yourself out running out all them fucking orders. You know how your energy is. Name of the game, understanding your energy. It's time to step out of these spaces of entrapment. Stop trapping yourself up, getting yourself all trapped and locked in. Before you do your intentions, ask yourself the question, did I already set the disciplines for my intentions, the intentions that I set last month? Do I really comprehend the affirmations that I've spoken and learned how to communicate before I write out these new affirmations? Before I sit out there and I go under the moon and I get fixated like, oh my God, the moon is so inviting to me and it felt so good. So one night out of the month, you feel good, but then the other 29 days, you feel like shit. It's time to change that process. But yeah, I'm going to sit here and relax and bask in this energy real quick. I love you. We love us. Ashe.